Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a regularly scheduled meeting of the Penfield Zoning Board of Appeals. Tonight's meeting is going to take place in two parts. The first part will be our public hearing. We'll ask the applicant to come up to the podium and give us name and address, and then explain to the board members why the relief requested should be granted. After the applicant is done, board members will very likely have questions, and then we'll invite anyone in the audience that cares to come and speak about the application to come on up, give name and address as well, and then speak about the application. Sometimes we have questions for that person as well. After the public hearings are adjourned, we take a brief recess, and then we'll reconvene in the back of the room to deliberate on tonight's applications and to tend to any other unfinished business the board may have. Members of the public are certainly welcome to be present at both sessions, the public hearings and the deliberations, although deliberation time is generally reserved for communications amongst board members with staff, and also occasionally with our council. So you're welcome to stay. The agenda tonight isn't overly long. If you want to leave after the application you're here for is over, you can certainly call tomorrow at the town to find out what action, if any, the board took on a particular item. Every meeting I point out that the town has a very good practice and policy of notifying neighbors that live near applications that the application is going to be heard, and the town does this so that neighbors are fully informed of their right to come in and speak about an application if they choose to do so. The town does it in many ways. One is by having the applicant post a sign. Another is postcards are sent to neighbors within a certain distance of the application, posted on the internet, posted on bulletin boards, and there may be other ways that I'm not thinking of at this time. But we think it's a good idea, and we welcome anyone that wants to come in and speak about an application to do so. So having said that, I'd ask everyone to rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And Harold, may we have the first application, please?
Application number 1, Philip Wasdorf, 1539 Sweets Corners Road, Penfield, New York, 14526. Requests an area variance from Article 3-3-35-D of the Code to allow the addition to an accessory structure that is larger than allowed at 1539 Sweets Corners Road. The property is owned by Philip Wasdorf and is zoned RA-2. This is SBL number 125.02-1-17. This is application 13Z-0039.
Hi, I'm Phil Wasdorp, and I have a residence at 1539 Sweets Corners Road, and I have a barn and I have a boat, and I'm trying to fit my boat in my barn, and it's a little bit longer than my barn, so I'm trying to put a little addition on the back of my barn, and nobody can see the little addition that I'm putting in the back. It's 8 feet by 5 feet, so it's very small. And in the back, nobody can see. There's no houses back there. There's a big berm on the one side of my barn, so I don't think it will bother anybody. And also, my boat and trailer would be in my barn instead of like in my yard. So I don't know.
Okay, this is what I would describe as a bump out. Would you say that's
Yep.
fair? Bump
Yep.
out the back. The structure, you said 8 by 5.
Yes.
Is that length and?
And the length was 9 feet.
All right, so it's 8 feet high at its highest point.
Yes.
Okay, and it's coming out 5.
Yep.
What was the length again?
9 feet.
9 feet. Okay. And is the construction of this bump out going to match the existing
Yes, it is.
exterior of the barn?
Yes.
Okay. Are you putting footers underneath it too, or?
I'm going to put a pad there.
Okay. Is that also what the barn's on?
Well, the barn is still on the existing foundation that it was on,
Okay.
so.
Okay. And you're not doing any additions with regard to lighting or anything, right? It's just a question of fitting it in
Yep.
there.
That's it.
Just a second. And obviously, there's nothing else you could do to achieve the same result other than not store the boat in it.
Right.
In the barn. and you have no other place to put it.
Well, the yard,
Right, I mean, other than outside.
yeah, no other place.
Okay, and I think you already stated it can't be seen from the road, can't be seen from the side of the property closest to it, because there's a berm there. How about on the other side, the west side?
No, the other side, you know, the houses are so far. I also have a large set of woods on the other side, so,
Okay. And just to clarify, you have approximately 4.9 acres,
yes.
and if you had 5 acres, you would
Apparently,
not
it
have
wouldn't
to,
be a
it would be
issue.
in compliance.
Right.
Well, not entirely, because then he would need to be 50 feet from the property line.
Right, so there's two issues.
Okay, other than the setback.
Right.
But,
But the structure is right now at 30 feet from the property line.
okay. But the advertised thing was to allow an addition that's larger.
Right, there's not a setback issue.
No, no.
There
If-
would be if you were 5
If it
acres.
were 5 acres, because then the requirement pushes it to
different.
50-foot setback, yes.
Gotcha, okay. That's all I have, Dan.
Anyone else? Anyone in the audience care to speak about this application? Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Application number 2, Randy Longhenry, 1199 Monroe County Line Road, Webster, New York, 14580. Requests an area variance from Article 3-3-35-D of the code to allow the construction of an accessory structure that is larger than allowed at 1199 Monroe County Line Road. The property is owned by Randy and Joy Longhenry and is zoned RA-2. This is SBL number 093 or 096.01-2-13.12. This is application 13Z-0040.
How's everybody doing tonight?
Fine.
So my application is for an accessory building. I do not have one on my property today. I have 2.4 acres. My home is, I think, 9 years old at this point. I'm out in an area where pretty much everybody has accessory buildings. I'm limited because of the size of my property. I do have a flag lot, so my property sits some distance off of the main road. I do have a property that sits closer to me closer to the road from my property, as well as one that sits behind. Both of those buildings both have exterior accessory buildings. So the reason I'm looking for an accessory building in my house, I have myself, my wife, both my parents also live with me. I do have like an in-law arrangement there. So I have a total of 4 drivers today. I have 2 kids that are becoming teenagers, and I have a 3-car garage that has 3 cars in it today and 4 drivers. This would allow me to have some winter storage for my vehicles, as well as some additional storage for mowers, snow blowers, equipment, air compressors, bicycles, and all the arrangements that we have, without keeping that stuff stored outside, especially during the wintertime. I plan on constructing this accessory building to identically match my house with vinyl siding, asphalt roof shingles, windows, and the whole deal. I expect it to improve the overall nature of the neighborhood, and I am building it to, I'm going to do my best to build it up to like builder's grade, same footers. I'm also putting 4 feet of gravel in, concrete pad on top of that, 2x6 walls, and I'm having a, regular trusses built for the roofing piece.
Okay, the first thing, we need to have your name and address for the record.
My apologies. My name is Randy Longhenry, and my address is 1199 County Line Road.
Okay, and how
Carol,
long,
before we move on, you're in receipt of Bob and Margaret Kiefer's letter?
I am. Did that not get distributed?
No,
That did.
I did distribute, but I
Okay.
just wanted, because he CC'd you. I
Yes.
just wanted to make sure you had a copy of it.
I do have a copy,
Okay,
yes.
very good.
I tried to do as much as I could up front with getting my neighbors' support and making sure if there was any issues that I addressed them. I was in my intent to give them full disclosure of what my plans were prior to even coming to you guys to ask for a variance. So many of them asked if they need to be here tonight. If they did get calls, I asked for their support, but otherwise I didn't know if it was completely necessary to have people show up.
okay, now how large is your structure?
The structure I'm requesting is 40 feet by 24 feet deep.
So
is
it's
the
a
footprint.
960
Yeah.
square foot structure.
Correct,
Okay, and you say you're going to use it for basic home tools and equipment,
correct.
right? And go through those again, what your basic home tools and equipment are.
So I have a, right, so I have a rider mower, I have bicycles, I have air compressors, tools, some wood tools. I also have snow blower, pressure washer. I've got an assortment of equipment that right now is clogging my current garage, as well as, you know, I have to weigh, either I don't house my own vehicles in that driveway, or put that stuff outside.
Okay, now you say you have a 3-car garage. How many cars do you have?
I have two, my parents have two.
You have 2, so there are 4 cars?
Correct.
And so 3 go in the garage. Where does the other one go?
The other one right now sits in the driveway, full-time.
Now, why do you need such a large structure? The code is 300 square feet, and you want 3.5 times what our code allows for where you live.
So I was looking to also potentially put a vehicle in that, or have space to work on a vehicle in there. My current garage also only goes to 7 feet. I have a pickup as well as a full-size SUV that I cannot put in the garage either. So I'm not going to build a gigantic structure, but I would like something that I could have a vehicle perhaps stored in during the winter time, as well as work on. And that would be,
And where is all the stuff stored now?
some stuff's outside. I've got a wood chipper outside, my mower's outside, 2 vehicles are outside, and the rest of the stuff is in.
And your home is 9 years old. How long have you lived there?
All 9 years. I was the
All 9
original owner,
Okay.
yes.
And you said everything will match the color, the materials, the roof, and everything will match your present home?
Correct.
Okay. Are you going to have 2 stories in this building?
I plan on having an area where I can put stuff up. I don't know if I'm going to make it a walk area or a stand-up build area, but I do plan on having higher storage in that.
And what about electricity? Will that go out to your building?
I think at some point, but I'd rather get the structure built and probably follow it up with the electric at a later date, unless you require me to put electric in it at the very beginning.
No, we won't require it.
Yeah. Just from a finances standpoint, I'm trying to do this on a budget, and I'd rather build the structure appropriately first, as opposed to putting a structure that is less than appealing, like a pole barn or something like that.
Okay. Now, this will be on the east side of your property?
Correct.
Okay, and how close to the property line will it be?
I'm planning on putting it 10 feet, but no further. So my house actually faces a little cockeyed. It faces northeast. I'm not planning on putting it any further past the front of my house it's not going to go past the front of my house, and then I plan on setting it back at least 10 feet from the side of the property to the side of my house, which would be the east side of the property.
Okay, so it would meet the front setbacks and the rear setbacks?
That's my intention, yes.
Okay. Now, you're allowed a 15-foot height on the structure, and you are asking for 25 feet. Why
Yes.
do you need that extra 10 feet?
Part of it is to match the height and the pitch of my house, so actually, I've got a pretty highly pitched house, so part of that is to match the overall construction, build, and appearance of the home, as well as provide me with some of that, I don't want to call it a second floor space, but more of like a loft area where I can store boxes and things like that up in the rafters.
And are there any other structures within 6 feet of where this will be?
No, there are
You
no
don't
other
have any
structures.
sheds or anything in your
No,
yard?
I do not. I do, so if you look at the overhead, you'll see a camper, and that's my father's camper. I have no intention of making any room to store any camping equipment, or there's no intention like that.
Where in relation to your home is it? How far away?
So it's probably, if you walk out my garage, I plan on putting it directly across from the exit of my garage, approximately 50 feet, 40 to 50 feet.
Okay, and will you have a driveway leading up to it?
Again, so I fully intend to at some point, but I don't know how elaborate I'll be able to get with the driveway before my funds run out. I'll have a path there definitely, but I do intend to put a driveway there at some point.
And do you have this, will have any impact on your drainage?
It
Or your
will.
neighbor's drainage?
Not my, well, I shouldn't say my neighbors. My drainage goes right down the driveway. I do have a berm. I have a raised bed septic in the back, so it kind of clogs off all of the, that prevents drainage from, like, my neighbor's property that sits further back than me. The only drainage it would impact would be pretty much my own that I would notice. And I am putting, if I did, I'd put a drain pipe underneath that.
And what's to the side and the rear of your property?
To the rear of my property is another, well, to the west. To the west of my property is another home.
To the west and north and south?
Yeah, so to the west of my property is another home, Robert Kiefer, and he's one of the people that wrote that letter. To the east of my home is Tom and Wendy, I can't remember their last
But it's a
names.
home,
Yep,
I don't, we don't
it's a
have to
home.
have the names.
Yep, to the north of my property is a farm, Bill Moore's farm. To the south of my property is another home on 20-some acres.
The letters that were received will be part of the record.
Okay,
I think that's all I have, thank you.
okay.
Which property is, would the structure be closest to? Which adjoining?
That would be Tom and Wendy's property, and that would be the one
Thorpe,
to the
the
east.
last name is Thorpe?
Yes, correct.
Okay, because we have a map here that has their
Yep.
names on it as owners. Okay,
Yep.
have you talked with them about that?
I did, I included I went over it with him, and he's like, oh, yeah, it sounds great. So I said, what, would you mind just signing something that says, you don't have any opposition to this or any concerns, and I did include that.
Okay, and describe what is going to be between the structure and their property line after it's done.
It was pretty much a wild area, all woods and stuff. There's an old milk barn foundation in there too that I wasn't gonna mess with, but I did kind of uncover a bunch of brush and stuff from there earlier this year. But I have no intention of moving huge mounds of dirt and actually clearing any of that. The only thing that's in there in between their property line and me now is like wooded area. It's like some silver maple and I wanna say, silver birch. Silver birch is what's in there. for the-
And if you've said this already, I apologize, but how much distance will there be between your structure and their property?
I was planning on 10 feet. That if there needs to be more than that, there needs to be more than that, but that was what I had intended to do.
And they're aware of that?
Yes. It sits like right behind, they have an accessory building.
That was going to be my next question. I see in the map and photo, aerial photo that Mr. Kiefer and Mrs. Kiefer actually submitted.
Yep,
You went through and did you a big favor by putting red X's.
he's a good neighbor.
Yeah, well, he's a good guy, and of accessory structures in the general vicinity, and there appears to be one, it's going to be a stone's throw, and it's owned by the Thorpes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I did, and I mentioned if he had an issue with the location, if he thought maybe further back in the yard would be better. He said no, he preferred it right there because it would be less easy, he wouldn't see it as much if it was right behind his.
I mean, it's a huge variance. It's three
Substantial.
times what's allowed, but given the, the fact that your neighbors are in favor of it and the fact that the location of that, there are many structures there, as we've already said, and it's wide open, and it's, okay. Any other questions from anyone?
Yeah, I have another question. Talking about these other structures, how large is the property that they're on?
So the Thorpes is even smaller. I want to say it's less than an acre or so. There's some across the street, but they're Wayne County. I don't even really count them. Kiefer's behind me.
What do you mean by that? You don't count?
I don't know if they're,
This is going into Wayne County, this telecast, by the way.
Yeah.
well, just because they have a whole set of different guidelines that they need to, so I didn't mean to make
Oh, I
that.
know.
So the Kiefers behind me are on 18 acres. He has 2 accessory buildings as well as an attached garage. The farmer north of me, of course, it's a farm. He's got hundreds of acres or thereabouts. So I am the smallest plot in that within throwing distance.
You only have a little over 2 acres.
I have, I believe, 2.4 acres.
2.1, I believe.
Oh, is it? Okay.
And how large is the Thorpe shed, or structure there?
I think it sits on about the same footprint. It's either 20 by 40 or 24 by 40. It may be not as high.
Could you manage with a lower height?
Quite possibly. Again, I'm trying to match.
In other words, by code?
Quite possibly, but I would like to get something that would match the appearance and the actual overall structure and theme of the property.
Anything else from the board? Once again, anyone in the audience? Bob? Jeez. Saw your written submission, Bob, it was great.
Thank you. Bob Kiefer, I live at 1197 County Line Road, which would make me the immediate adjacent neighbor to the west. And I did not anticipate being able to attend this meeting. My 6:30 meeting got done a little quicker than I thought, so I decided I would stop by to see if you had any questions with regards to our letter. You more frequently see me as a presenter for applications for others. One of the questions you raised was with regards to storm drainage. The storm drainage from this area of his site will drain to the south side of our common driveway and then to the east. It goes underneath a culvert under our common driveway, flows north a short distance and goes under County Line Road and flows to the east into Wayne County. There will be no impact on adjacent properties as a result of the runoff from this building. The architectural style of the proposed building is, in my opinion, very attractive and something that should be encouraged. And to accomplish 8-foot high doors, you're 10 foot to the eaves, 10 foot to the eaves and a reasonably steep pitched roof to match that of the house runs you up to 20 feet or more without any, automatically. So to restrict the height will restrict the architectural style because he has no flexibility with regards to the height of the doors because of the size of the vehicles. So I think it would be counterproductive to restrict the height. And this is the character of the neighborhood. The master plan for the town of Penfield, current master plan, previous master plans, the new strategy areas that are being studied all advocate for keeping the area to the east of 250 similar to the way it is now, a kind of an agricultural, rural, larger lot, more open, 2-acre lot minimums. The dairy industry is not going to come back. So the development that's going to occur there is going to be these farmette-style structures and the ability to have accessory buildings. I live where I live because I could not have a barn in Arundecoit.
Bob? Thank you. Okay. We're all set, I think, unless somebody wants to respond to Bob. No? All right, next application, Harold.
Application number 3, Paul Colucci, the DeMarco Group, 1950 Brighton Henrietta Town Line Road, Rochester, New York, 14623. Requests a special permit for signage under Article 7-7-3 from Article 7-7-11-E and Article 7-13-C of the code to allow a logo larger than allowed and more than one building-mounted sign for Planet Fitness at 1900 Empire Boulevard. The property is owned by Baytown Associates and zoned GB. This is SBL number 093.02-1-23.11. This is application number 13Z-0041.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Paul Colucci, representative of DeMarco Baytown Associates here tonight with two representatives also joining me, Matt Devens, representative from Planet Fitness, and Laura Baranis from Premier Sign Company. We're here tonight for the consideration of two variances as it relates to Planet Fitness, a new tenant in our plaza at Empire Boulevard, 1900 Empire Boulevard. The first variance, as Mr. Morehouse mentioned.
Can I hold you up 1 second? When I talked to Matt, okay, am I correct? You talked about not wanting the second sign. Are we changing this again, that you do now want the second sign?
I can address that. And,
Okay.
and
So
plan to.
I'm just trying to figure out where you're going, that's all.
Yep. if
One
I-
or two variances?
If I could.
Okay.
As I mentioned, the application currently shows we're here tonight for the consideration of two variances. The first would be variance from Article 7, 7-11E, to allow a logo to exceed 50% of the face of the sign area. Planet Fitness currently proposes on the south elevation, which would face central into the plaza, Empire Boulevard, the main plaza entrance here. Planet Fitness occupies 17,000 square feet in the new space that we just renovated. So their main entrance would face south into the plaza. They occupy 72 lineal feet of frontage within that storefront. So their sign that they're proposing, thanks, Harold. Their sign they're proposing on the south elevation would be a total of 49.24 square feet. Code would allow a sign of 144 square feet, as if we took the 2 feet per lineal footage of frontage. The logo that they are proposing, when we do the math, as it relates to the total area of the sign, is 82% of the face of the sign, and the lettering is 18%. So there's the first variance. The second variance that they are proposing is from Article 7, 7-13C, to allow a sign, to allow in excess of one business identification sign. That
Should be on.
That sign would be on the north elevation, facing into what will be the future town center of Baytown Plaza. Now, I did have discussion with Mr. Devens, and in response to your question, being that we submitted the application, being that we are here for the consideration of one variance, we wanted to pursue the consideration of that second variance with the condition that we would not place that sign until we do have approval for the town center, understanding that at this time there isn't connectivity to Brant Point Drive, there is not any other retail area on the north side, but to allow us to have that ability to place it with the condition upon build-out of the town center that we would have the opportunity to place a second sign. There will be what we anticipate when we do come back, hopefully in the very near future, for the next phase of Baytown Plaza, a signalized entrance on Brant Point Drive and entrance into the expanded Baytown Plaza off of Brant Point Drive. The second sign would be a total square footage on that sign would be 36.69 square feet, which I think is on the exhibit that I presented to you. Again, if we took the lineal footage of frontage that they occupy, we would be under that. And then the two signs combined are less than what we would be allowed on one single face. So hopefully that offers an explanation to your question as it relates to the second variance. I did respond to the 6 criteria in written form. I believe you have those as part of the application, and either myself, Mr. Devens, or Laura can answer any questions, hopefully, that you have.
Okay, well, let's go with the first variance, the logo sign, okay? It's a very nice sign, and certainly it's underneath, and is that your brand logo? In other words, every time you put it on your headers or whatever, this is the logo itself?
My name's Matt Devens, and I'm representing the tenant Planet Fitness, 1900 Empire Boulevard. The question as it relates to the logo is our branded logo, yes, sir.
So in other words, and the problem that we have is that the logo is larger than the letters, but it's a very nice looking logo, and everything that you put on is going to be there, right? I mean, everything that you do, that logo is going to be on. So it's
Yes.
going to be a recognized brand logo, right?
It is, yeah.
Okay. It's lit from the back, or is it just, explain the lighting on it?
It's lined with LED lighting, and that's probably a better question for the installer who has the sign on hand in their shop.
Hi, Laura Baranis from Premier Sign. The sign is internally illuminated with white LEDs and much more power efficient, lower energy.
And it's gonna be colored, like, it's gonna come up yellow and red and black, and is there gonna be colors in it? Or is it just, that's the facing and you light it with just white lights, and that's the colors that come up?
Well, no, the color that you see on the drawing will illuminate from the white lighting from behind it.
Okay, yeah, that's my point.
Yes.
There isn't yellow lights and red lights and blue
No,
lights.
sir, no.
There's white lights, and the face of it is how it is.
Yes, all
And,
white inside.
Okay, back to me, how long do you want this lit? 24 hours while you're open?
Yeah, it's, more imperative, of course, that as the day proceeds into night, we, of course, have it lit. So yeah, we would prefer to have it, set on a system where it is lit
24 hours?
24 hours. yeah.
Okay. Just a question. Wasn't a trick question. Okay, we're good. That's good for that one. Now we'll get into the second sign. And probably I'll have to talk to the representative from DeMarco. The problem that I have right away in asking this is, I'm looking at your blueprints that we have here, okay? You have like Building P, Building O, Building N, Building M, Building E. How many of these buildings, if we just okay 2 signs right now for this building, how many more buildings are you gonna come back? Are we gonna set a precedence that you're gonna come back with 10 more buildings, 10 more stores, 12 more stores, 50 more stores that want 2 signs?
That's a tough question to answer immediately, because we really would look at, on a case-by-case basis, with the amount of square footage that Planet Fitness occupies, and given that they are, they have presence on both sides of that particular building, is why we gave
Well,
it consideration.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by presence on both sides of the building? Is there going to be an entrance on both sides?
They occupy, Mr. Chairman,
Oh, fine, Dan.
front to back,
Right.
72 feet on the south, 72 feet on the north.
So what's on the north side? Is there a door? Are there windows? What?
The
what's
north
that?
side has,
Storefront for the future street of shops to a point, and then it is architecturally detailed to give some articulation. There isn't an entrance, there isn't a
There will not
door.
be an entrance there, okay.
the reason that we're supporting Planet Fitness in this particular variance, and again, they would all be on a case-by-case basis, and I wouldn't anticipate that this is setting a precedent, because I know that the board would consider variances individually on a case-by-case basis, is the size of the tenant and the opportunity that they have to showcase to a future portion of our retail plaza that's going to have a completely secondary entrance. One of the things that we've heard from tenants as it relates to this plaza is it's deep and it's far back, and signage and being able to let the general public know who is there is very challenging. It was actually one of the findings statements in the recent zoning change that we had, both adopted by the planning board and the town board, that we should explore alternative means of signage so that we could have an opportunity for our tenants to be more successful. So this is generally a pretty standard means of addressing signage, with just a second sign in a tasteful manner that's going to fit architecturally within the elevation that the sign's presented on. So that's why we're offering this in support of our tenant.
Well, again, did you, I'm not quite clear. Is there an entrance in the back where this sign is going to be? No, so it's just.
They will not.
Strictly advertising, which, again, all signs are partially advertising and partially here I am, right? Go in
Sure.
this door. If you had a thing back there and it said entrance, I'd understand it. But again, looking at your, the blueprints that you have, I mean, even if you put the sign back there, it's facing 20 parking spots compared to the sign in the front that goes to 200, which is the main, which actually is the main of your, right? of your property. That's where the preponderance of the parking is gonna be, out where he puts the sign. And then you have this little street that goes down, and then each individual store will have its signage on the streets. Am I correct?
On the street of shops that
Yeah.
is recently being constructed, which is part of that first phase, yes, each tenant would have an opportunity to display signage above their storefront.
But see, this is my problem. You got building N and building P. I don't know if you have it on your, is someone gonna take the whole building and want 2 signs? Or, you know, since it's facing 3 parking lots, 3 signs? And how about building P? So again, you know, if this isn't an entrance and it's just advertising, that's why we have the rules. I mean, you know, the town board makes the rules. We just wanna see something that's unique. What is unique about this store that you would say I mean, we, of course, as a board, would give you this second sign?
Understood. To answer your questions as it relates to building P, O, N, M, those are not approved. Those are future. That's going to be part of a site plan application that we're hoping to advance in the very near future as it relates to the relocation of Walmart. So how many tenants will be occupying each of those buildings is speculation at this point. We would, again, deal with signage on a case-by-case basis. There may be a tenant in Building N that occupies front to back on the north side of Building N, and we may want to support them as it relates to being able to showcase to both sides of that plaza. Same thing goes for Planet Fitness, as in this case, on an individual basis. We anticipate that we will get site plan approval for this town center, and that we will have an entrance off of Brant Point Drive, a signalized entrance. It could be a completely separate entrance that general public from the north may use on a daily basis as they're visiting a new relocated Walmart Supercenter. They may never come in the main plaza entrance as it relates to the existing Baytown Drive, main plaza drive. Therefore, that general travel path would provide an opportunity for Planet Fitness to let the general public know that they are there. They are part of the plaza. I'm not saying that every tenant is going to have that opportunity. We just, given the size of this tenant, how much space that they're occupying, and the opportunity to tastefully include their signage on that north elevation, we respectfully request consideration of that variance with the condition that we have no intentions of placing that until there is actually an approved entrance off Brant Point Drive and the approval of a town center.
What would be the incentive for this board to grant you a second sign at this point without knowing how that development's gonna go, what the needs are gonna be there, what other buildings are gonna be there? This tenant could very well be gone by the time you get to that stage, and another tenant in there. I hope it doesn't happen, but, I mean, that's a possibility. So why would we wanna do that now?
That's a fair question, and one that hopefully I can try to respond to. We anticipate that the site plan approval will advance in the next few months, and that we would be successful in obtaining that, and within 18 months have a relocated Walmart Supercenter and the beginnings of a town center. We fully anticipate Planet Fitness to be with us through the term of their lease. And if they were to expire within their lease and vacate like any other tenant, they would have to remove their sign. Correct me if I'm wrong, Harold, but there's a certain term from the time a tenant is no longer there that the sign needs to be removed. So I think that any future variance would be would it be tied to the tenant?
This is a special permit that's going to carry with the tenant.
With the tenant.
And that operation there, not necessarily any subsequent tenants that may take the space that is now occupied by Planet Fitness. So a future tenant would have to come back. If they wanted the same 2 signs, they would have to come back to this board and make their argument for that,
Second sign.
for the 2 signs, right?
Mike, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
I guess I see an analogous situation here to some of the things that we've done in Panorama Plaza. In the sense of, that plaza's a little different, and there's entrances off of Panorama and Old Penfield Road. Here, the entrances, well, proposed are gonna be, actually on Creek Street, is there gonna be an entrance on Creek Street?
Yes.
So really, 3 entrances, Creek, Empire, and now, if you're granted Brant Point, and in Panorama, we've granted 2 signs occasionally, just so people coming in from various entrances can see where they're going and you know, where they're going. So I understand the logic, but I guess I'm wondering about the timing as well. So, your thought, your response to that is, let's move forward with the request for the variance, and if it's granted, it doesn't become effective until you've had, or you just won't act on it?
We won't act on it.
Okay. Well, would you have an issue if we said it wouldn't become legally effective until you have that approval?
I wouldn't have an issue with that.
Okay. Because if I'm understanding this correctly, obviously you're hoping that people coming from the north are, you know, they're the ones that are gonna see the sign.
Correct.
Okay, and you're perhaps even using this sign to encourage people to use that entrance, that Brant Point entrance. You don't want people coming from the north to pass that entrance only to come in further south, I guess it is. You want them to use Brant Point.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly that, Mr. Chairman. The 3 entrances are designed to balance traffic from the north, from the south, and then obviously from Creek Street, so that we don't overload any one of them, and that's consistent with the approval we received from New York State DOT.
Is there gonna be access to the north parking lot from Empire, from the front? Can you go around it, from the west?
Can you go from this side
Yeah.
in?
No, can you go around on the left there?
You could.
You will be able to do that when it's done?
Yes.
I know you can
It's
do it
going
now.
to be more service-related, and the plaza will be developed in a manner to identify where the general public should be traveling versus where service vehicles, that is going to be downplayed.
You're not gonna encourage people to travel that way.
And then there's,
As condition of our future approvals, we would be granting access from the back of these parcels fronting on Empire Boulevard.
into Baytown Plaza, and that's to eliminate lefts in and lefts out on those frontage parcels.
Wouldn't, you know, you keep pointing that entrance on the top and you're going down. Wouldn't that actually be because right now in back or how people get to the back of this project, that is a service entrance. That's how they drop off things to your stores, right? In other words, yeah.
Yeah, today, actually, the service is around,
Right.
and then the larger vehicles for Walmart travel around the back.
All right, and that's where you want the sign, is really on the back of that spot. So are you gonna encourage cars? I mean, I understand the parking back there, because why waste parking, but you're trying to encourage cars to go that?
I say today as in, there isn't officially a street of shops open, but 1 week from today will actually be the grand opening of that street of shops. And then there is a whole different means of access, and there's actually, as part of this first phase of approval,
We actually have parking that's approved back here. So this, we anticipate, and we are actively tenanting, this is gonna be full of retailers. There will be parking back here that's approved today.
I just have shown a blend of the two, so you could see what we will be advancing in the near future.
But as of now, that entrance way on the top that you keep pointing to, that's not there.
Brant Point Drive is there, but there is not
Entrance
an
into the
entrance
park.
to it. And that was, in my explanation, the caveat would be, we wouldn't place that sign until there is a permitted entrance.
That's all I got there.
Anybody else? Anyone in the audience? Okay, thank
Dan,
you.
I had one more, and this
Sure.
is sort of basic, but I'm not sure. Is this sign the one that's going in the back?
Correct.
Okay, and the other one, just the
Yeah,
logo-based sign is in the front?
Front.
Thanks. That's all.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Applications number 4 and 5. Philip Palermo, 213 Torrey Pine Drive, Rochester, New York, 14612, requests an area variance from Article 3-3-37-A of the code to allow the construction of a single-family residence with less setback at 35 San Filippo Circle, lot number 11, Qualtro Station. The property is owned by Arlene and Philip Palermo and is zone R-1-20. This is SBL number 108.12-1-81. This is application number 13Z-0042. Application number 5 is Philip Palermo, 213 Torrey Pine Drive, Rochester, New York, 14612, requesting an area variance from Article 3-3-35-D of the code to allow an existing barn with less setback than required at 476 Embury Road. The property is owned by Dean Shorey and is zone R-1-20. This is SBL number 108.12-1-47. This is application 13Z-0043.
Hi, I'm Phil Palermo. I'm the new owner of 31 and 35 San Filippo. And what we're doing is we're building 2 residential houses. One is going to be my daughter's, one is going to be mine. My daughter's house is actually under construction now. Dean here we're going to swap some land with Dean. He's going to give me 15 feet in the rear of both lots. In return, I'm going to give him 30 feet along the west side. West side of Lot 12 for him to put future gas line in to his property. The variance for for 35 San Filippo is so we could build a ranch home that fits the architectural of the neighborhood. And that's about it. All the
You have plans with you that show what you're thinking of for the area developed? Well, could you put it up there so people could see it?
I don't know if you can see it from there.
It's kind of small.
I think we have them. They could probably zoom in on it for the people at home.
Phil, do you have this one too?
I don't have that one with me.
Do you have enough?
There's some more clips on the side if you need them.
On the left side, there's more clips.
Dean, there's a couple more clips on the left. Sure, yeah.
Gotcha. Your other left.
Yeah, your other
Yeah,
left is right.
the other left. I wasn't gonna say that. I was gonna try.
Well, he's a builder, so.
I'm Dean Shorey, 476 Embury Road. Basically, this is my barn right here, okay? And when we change the property line, I'm going to give him 15 feet on the back of his daughter's lot and the back of his other lot for his main home, and we're swapping for this. This barn wasn't pre-existing non-conforming, and then when we change the property lines, it's no longer pre-existing non-conforming because we're moving property lines around. The purpose of this is to give his daughter a bigger backyard on this lot and more yard on this lot. And I've also said I'd take down this little shed that I've got over here. And also, my home here, my family's owned it since 1965. And I had an oil line that supplied oil for my house that went from my driveway across the creek, very long. The oil line fractured a few years ago. DEC came out, it was a big problem. And I no longer have a good way to get oil back to my house. This will provide me utilities right here to my house, which is here, rather than going 500 feet to Embury Road to get gas. So it's a good thing for me because I'll be able to get utilities in here and get gas because I'm all on electric now, so it's not good.
Two of you have already drawn up contracts to make those exchanges of the land and the property line changes, or is it dependent on what's approved here?
I
Just
believe
what have you done so far?
Phil's had his engineer work on it.
Right.
He can fill you in on that.
Right, I was told when the time comes, it's just a simple land swap, because we're not, creating any new subdivision or anything. So,
From the standpoint of the planning board activity, because they will have to go through a re-subdivision, they do consider it to be a minor application because it's just swapping lands and not creating additional lots. We're gonna start out with 3 lots, you're gonna end up with 3 lots. 1 lot's gonna be smaller and 2 lots are gonna be a little bit larger.
Okay. So can you go to the housing structure? If we go back to the land that you want to build, the single-family residence,
uh-huh.
can you explain what you're thinking for that land and why the variance is required?
Okay, as you can see, it's gonna be a ranch home, and it's got a pretty big footprint. This lot is not deep, so in order to fit the home on the lot, we need to push it a little bit closer to the street.
And there is a variance for his daughter's home for the same distance next door.
Right.
And he's gonna be building his house in line with his daughter's house. Then they're both, here it is a variance for 35 feet on the property next door.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the end of that.
I'm sorry. He has a variance for his daughter's home next door for 35 feet to the road. And he's gonna be right next door, and he's looking for the same relief for his property.
So that they're set back the same
It's
distance.
the same as the house next
So
door.
it's aesthetically pleasing when you pull into the neighborhood.
Right.
That's the goal, what you're going for.
Yes.
And when you do that, what is the issue when you swap out the land for the back of the properties? Then you'll have, is there,
The barn.
I have a barn that's now 31 feet from the property line. That will reduce it to 16 feet to the property line, which is still conforming. Okay, it's over 10. But because it's a structure that's a barn and not a garage and not a residence, it doesn't comply with town law that you have to be 100 feet from a residence with an outbuilding. Okay? But it's not like the barn just jumped there. It's been there.
yeah, it's been there.
And your neighbor right there is not gonna complain, right?
Mr.
You're not-
Picaretto is sitting in the neighborhood
Oh,
here
okay.
and may have some comments.
Okay.
His concern is this area here that was part of his daughter's lot that'll be changed to mine, was used by the other people in the neighborhood. I won't mention any names like the guy across the street. Used it as a dumping ground for branches and grass clippings and any other plant material. Okay, just threw it all there, and that'll have to be cleaned up, obviously.
Oh, these lots were pre-approved building lots?
Yes, they are.
Correct? And when you selected the homes that you want to put on these, did you have to pick them from a selected building plan book from the developer?
No,
Or can you build
No.
whatever you want on that property, in that development?
I thought we could build whatever we wanted on that property. So the house
Typically,
was
you have to pick
actually.
a plan.
Right.
Are you picking a plan from one of the builders?
No.
Oh, you're-
No, I am,
you're the builder.
I am the builder.
Well, I'm sorry.
So it's a custom plan that was
It's
drawn.
not like you pick 1 through 10 of the building choices and the homes all kind of look the same.
No, these are
Okay.
custom homes.
Okay. My question on that was just, how could the builder have a lot that wasn't approved for the buildings?
Right.
You know what I mean? It seems like when you develop.
for the lot.
Yeah, the house for the lot. Seems like if they created the lot, there should be a house that fits accordingly.
Right, I just bought the lots.
Okay.
and So I had the house, I kind of jumped the gun, put it that way. So,
You bought the specs to build this house?
yes,
So there isn't anything that you can do at this point to reduce the size of the homes
no,
to fit within the variance?
no.
Would it reduce the square footage too much? You're saying no, but why
Well,
couldn't you do
it's,
that?
right now, it's only 2,156 feet.
One on the left or the one on the right?
This one.
Is 2156?
Yeah.
And what
it's
is
a
the one on the left?
And it's a ranch. The one on the left is going to be 2,700 feet. It's a colonial.
Is that the typical size of the homes in the neighborhood?
Yeah, average.
Are those larger than what's in the
There's some
neighborhood?
bigger ones up the street, and there's some smaller ones down the
Okay.
street, so. the
So
rate-
it's not the biggest, not the smallest?
Correct.
Okay.
Right about in between.
Plans for starting to build for the property?
This one is under construction already. This one probably won't be, depending if I sell my house or not, probably not till next spring at the earliest.
Yeah, Danny, I got one. In other words, the reason why your daughter's house is being built is she already has a variance,
Yes,
okay?
yes.
And you don't have the variance.
No,
So what
no.
you're here for is to get the variance.
Correct.
So that you put it in line with your daughter rather than have your daughter's home forward and yours way back. Am I
Correct.
Okay, I got it.
To clarify, I want to make sure I have this right. Your daughter's house, the one where the footprint's already established, that has the variance from the front setback.
Correct.
And the way it's being built, you don't need, it's sufficiently away from the rear lot line as it stands now to be in
Yes.
compliance.
Right.
So in other words, if we didn't grant that 15-foot, the place would look the same. The barn's already there, the house would be built in the current structure. So basically, it's moving a line on a map with regard to that back portion.
Right.
Physically, it's gonna look the same whether we grant it or not.
That's correct.
That is correct, yes.
Anyone in the audience?
I have a lot of questions. I'm Ann Kaplan, it's my husband Elliot. We live at 304 Bell Vista, we're directly across the creek from this property. Right over here. We're at the intersection of San Filippo and Bell Vista. This is the first I'm hearing that this property is approved for 2 buildings. It seems very crowded for 2 buildings. What's the total acreage of the lots?
It's approximately an acre and a half.
Because we're 2,700 feet on almost an acre. And having 2 houses squished on that little piece of road front seems very intrusive. I don't know if there's anything we can do to prevent it, but, and that sounds like a very big house to put in a very small space.
Let me understand, the house that's being built right now,
That's this one over here.
right, what's the acreage on that lot?
That's a half acre.
It's a half acre, and it's about, what did you say, about 2,700 square feet?
Yes.
And the proposed house, what's that acreage?
It's 1.5.
And it's 2,200 square feet?
Yeah, about 2,150.
It's 1.5, but a good chunk of that it's narrow and goes back along the creek. It's not along the road. And they're not building in the majority of that property.
Okay, so your argument then is there's not much usable or buildable area?
I think they're
I
gonna
guess.
be right on the creek, they're gonna be right on the road, they're gonna be right in my face.
Asking to move it away from the creek.
No, I know, but I just want to make sure I understand her argument, because on paper, the numbers are there.
Well, I don't know what the legalities are, but I'm.
Well, there's one that's an acre and a half lot, and he's building a 2,200 square foot house. That's, if it were a flat lot, that would be more than, and a fully usable lot, that would be plenty of room, and there's plenty of houses in the town that fit that. The other one, 2,700 on half an acre, really same thing. There's plenty of 2,700 square foot homes on half acre lots in the town.
Right
Assuming-
in that area, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
But I get your point about the creek.
The houses right in this area are not right up against each other. They're there because we had woods around.
Right.
And this is totally going to change the character of this, our little corner. And it's going to devalue my house.
Point out the distance between the 2 homes. I think you have a measurement up there that, I was just asking him
That's
to.
Mr. Palermo there.
It's about 48 feet.
homes?
Between the two.
Okay.
And how far is the proposed house from the creek?
I don't know exact footage, but it's a good 50, 60, it's gotta be, maybe even more. And if I remember correctly, your house is probably closer to the creek than my house will be.
My house is quite a distance from the creek. There's a lot of lawn and trees
So-
and
so
woods in between.
When this is on, so is mine. So will be mine.
Yeah, I think we should
Is-
clarify.
Yeah,
got
I just
two-
gotta ask you, is this an approved building lot? You're not,
Two of them.
okay, so in other words,
Yes.
it's a lot that somebody was gonna buy and put a house on?
There's two lots there.
Well, there's two lots.
that are-
Yeah, but
they're both approved.
Yeah.
the one we're referring to is the one where he needs the variance from.
Well, could you put that house,
two
your
approved.
house, on that lot without the setback variance?
No.
So you'd have to move it too close to the rear lot line?
Right, if I moved it back, I'd be too close to the rear lot line.
By how much?
By about 14 feet.
Just about what you're asking for the
Or for the
variance.
front, yes.
So it's still gonna be close.
When was the approval received?
I believe September 30th or 13th, the planning board?
Now, the approval for the,
Well,
Building
building
lot.
lot?
Oh, for the original
That's one
subdivision?
of the valid.
She's asked, are these approved building lots? She's been given the answer, yes. I'm asking you when those were approved, if you know.
Well, we know the variance was granted for lot number 12 in 2005, so sometime prior to that, they were granted approvals for the overall subdivision, which is Qualtrough Station, which included,
Does it reference that anywhere?
I didn't notice it anyplace. But it's these two lots that we're here discussing tonight, along with her lot, another lot that shares a bridge crossing, I believe, correct? And then I believe there are 8 other lots that come off of Embury Road. There are 8 other lots, part of this subdivision that your home is part of, off of Embury Road. Right.
There's a lot of undeveloped land between us and everything.
But one of the lots that you're describing as undeveloped is an approved building lot,
It's the back end of this lot.
on the other side of the creek. On the east side of the creek,
You know
right.
where-
There's a
You know
gentleman,
where the
there's
yellow-
one
the
gentleman,
yellow
that-
house is back there in that subdivision? He bought both those lots.
Right,
The
he
lot
bought two
behind him
lots.
was actually an approved building lot to put a house there,
Yes.
too.
yeah, I mean, although you don't see that many houses back there, there are that many approved building lots, because one of the property owners decided he wanted to purchase an additional lot just for his own benefit.
Lot doesn't even have access to a road.
There's a reference in our,
They do have access to,
The circle.
what's the street name over there?
Beechbrook.
We have a resident,
That's
Beechbrook. Right.
there's a reference in our prior resolution to subdivision map dated June 2003.
Yeah, and that's, I just wanted you folks to realize this, the building lot approval wasn't something that just is either happening tonight or happened recently. I figured it happened a while ago
It's
because
been
of the.
10 years, yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, by,
Okay.
For two buildings.
correct. Well, the original approval in 2003 was for 12 lots, 4 of which were accessed off of Bell Vista and San Filippo, and the 8 that were going to be accessed off of Embury Road on that street, which is named Beechbrook.
Yeah, it probably looks bad to you because he bought a wooded area that you didn't know was a lot. But it was an approved lot since 2003 is what we're saying. We're not approving a lot that was a wooded area, okay? He's asking for a variance from his house to be placed. Yes, that's right. That's all we're determining tonight. These are all lots and,
To the road, the board, he's in our line of sight. The board,
okay.
he's impinging on our property.
So in other words, there's the creek in between you and him, right?
Right.
Okay, so you say if he moves it towards the road,
All the way to the creek.
it will impinge it. Okay, no, that's not, now that's what we need to hear. Now I understand where you're coming from.
But I think the closeness to the back lot line would be the same. If we didn't grant him the variance, he'd probably have to put a smaller house on or get a variance from the rear lot line. But he would still be about, if he was in compliance with the rear lot line, he'd still be the same distance. The extra dimension of the house is going forward, not back.
I'd rather him be back than forward.
Isn't that closer to you? No?
I mean, if it's gonna be there at all, I'd rather he be back from the road as much as all the other houses.
Okay. Isn't forward away from you, though? Isn't forward away from you?
Because we're around the corner, we're kind of in the
Ninety
corner
degree-
there. So
The creek runs diagonally between the two properties?
She's over here. There's a creek crossing right here with that bridge that you probably saw. And they're here, and there's another resident there.
Gotcha.
That line of sight's gonna probably change relative to the.
So it's gonna change no matter what.
No
So
matter
he
what.
puts
Yeah,
a
that's
building
right.
there.
There's gonna be a change in what they're looking at there regardless.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
No, they're not back here, they're up here.
Yeah, I know, I'm just waiting for are you all set? All right, anyone else in the audience?
How you doing? I'm John Picaretto. I live next door to what will be now his daughter's property at 27 San Filippo Circle. I've been there for 16 years, and it's been a dead end originally when we first moved in. The Valerinos across the street from me bought the property, developed it, opened it up. And it's actually been a nice cleaned up area. So it was nice at one time because it was forever wild. But the last 5-6 years, to look at that, it's just kind of been overgrown and not real attractive since the road has been put in. Their home was built. It's been a nice addition. They just recently closed on the last house to the left of their property. So now that the two remaining lots, we certainly welcome it to the neighborhood because that property's just been kind of let go and overgrown. His daughter's property, they've already started to build a home. And my concern, I guess, from Phil's perspective, we hope he gets the variance to build a home like that because we certainly don't want to add a smaller home into the neighborhood when most of the homes are 25, 28, 3,000 square feet. So it would be a nice, attractive ranch to have that. To put a smaller house, I think, doesn't really add value to the property or to the neighborhood. From our perspective, being next door where the property line is, it certainly gives our neighbor to the rear the ability to now have access to the natural gas and bring that through. Our only concern is, and we've talked, that I think that hopefully we should be able to work it out because that's what neighbors do. But where that property line now, where that 30 feet is adjacent to my property, is kind of the overgrown, overrun, and just kind of let go area that somehow, some way that needs to be either graded or finished developed because it's just kind of left in rough shape right now. And so it's kind of an eyesore because now you've carved out the whole area and now there's just this kind of little piece of rough landscaping, if you will. It's kind of wild.
And which lot is that on? I want to make sure I understand which one.
That would be the lot directly next door to me, which is the 30 feet that would be given in this variance to swap out the 15 feet of the rear of the property.
Okay, so he's going to have control of that area?
Correct.
And basically what you're asking is that be made a
Cleaned up.
condition?
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with it, even from a grass cutting standpoint, because you gotta understand, he's all the way in the back on Embry.
Right.
So this is kind of gonna be a unique situation where you're gonna have this little postage stamp piece of property, so to speak, that's gonna be coming through now to the side of my property. But, I guess the concern is just that it's developed property and not kind of left in a rough situation.
Right. Okay, so you're sort of making a point that if it's not granted, the variance, the setback, that he may build a smaller home, and you're concerned about the effect of a smaller home on values
Sure.
in the area?
I
Okay.
mean, because it's not gonna really fit in with the landscape of the neighborhood. There isn't, it will be probably, I think there's one other ranch in the whole development in San Filippo Estates, but it would be a nice addition.
Okay. All right, any questions for this gentleman? No? Come on back up. Or, you know, if you, well, you all right? We can get your microphone. It's up to you.
I don't even know if the mic is working.
It should be.
Is it?
Yep.
The house that went up on the other side of us last year is a smaller home. It's about 1,900 square feet, if I'm remembering correctly.
Okay.
And it's mostly garage and 2 stories. So I don't buy that argument.
All right.
Just also, I wanted to make one other comment because it wasn't real clear, and I know Roseanne was asking some questions about it. These lots were developed as 4 lots, and they were posted. The 2 lots share the driveway that runs over the creek, and then there was 2 separate lots to the west of those properties, which were staked off, and like I said, they've been there for 5-6 years, developed since the road has, I think, been put in. And now, again, we're happy to have neighbors, hopefully, to get this development finished. Thank you.
Else?
No?
Anyone else in the audience? Okay, folks, thank you very much. That was our last application, so the public hearings will be adjourned. We'll take a brief recess and reconvene in the back of the room. Thank you all very much. Oh, before we sign off, oh, good, the TV. I want to say thank you very much to Roseanne. This is her last meeting, and she is what some people would characterize as moving up in the world, going to the planning board. I'm not sure members of the zoning board would agree with that characterization, but thank you very much for your dedication and your hard work. It's been a pleasure to serve with you on this board. You've always come
Thank you.
prepared and act out of concerns for the residents of the town of Penfield, and that's what we're all trying to do, and you've done a great job of that. So
Well,
thank you very
you.
much, Roseanne.
Same here.
Great.